A thread from Brian Cates at Draw and Strike on Twitter. When I switched from Never Trump to Pro Trump in June of 2017, Comey had just been fired. And it was becoming increasingly apparent that yes, indeed, Trump and company were attempting to assert control of a federal government chock full of saboteurs out to take them down. A group of very determined, entrenched, and clever saboteurs who were enthusiastically out to get Trump, setting him up with briefings and then leaking them, laying traps, sending spies, intercepting communications, in some cases in coordination with foreign intelligence services. Now, I'm going to refer to one of my earlier threads here. It's important that you understand the three brutal truths about conservative pundits and have them firmly fixed in your minds before we discuss this issue further. Because ever since June of 2017, I've watched Trump supporting pundits make the exact same three absurd presumptions over and over again. They start almost every narrative they push based on one, two, or all three of these absurd presuppositions. What are the three absurd presumptions of many conservative pundits? 1. I am smarter than this president. 2. I am better informed than this president. 3. I would be doing a far better job than this president. I understood what I was seeing, but every time I tried to articulate it, I was told to stop attacking our own side. I was often accused of jealousy or of being a secret never-Trumper because I kept talking about how absurd these three presumptions were. Here's the thing about punditry people don't know. It's incredibly easy to do. I've been doing it for 8 years now from a tiny apartment in a mid-sized South Texas town. First on social media for about 6 years, and then the last 2 years as a columnist for Epoch Times and Uncover DC. Pundits are people who make their living giving their opinions. You would hope that these are informed people who spend the time to dig fully into a subject and research and engage in some serious thought before forming an opinion and providing it to their audience. I've discovered since I became one, most political pundits on either side don't spend much time at all on research, critical thought, or seeking alternative points of view before launching into their latest narrative. Just because some pundit has been telling you for going on 3 years now, Trump and Sessions could have rolled this entire Spygate plot like an old carpet, easy peasy, back in early 2018, does not make it so. It's true a good communicator can take something that's complex with a lot of moving parts and simplify so the uninitiated can understand the basics of it. But that's not really what many of these pundits have been doing these past few years. There's a big difference between accurately covering a civil war inside the federal government between two very real opposing sides with all the complexity involved in that as you explain what's going on and pretending this isn't complex at all, in fact it's easy, faced with an uphill battle all the way in January 2017, Trump and his team launched a very clever military-style counterintelligence operation against an entrenched criminal cabal inside the federal agencies that theoretically Trump was now in charge of running. The complexity and difficulty of pulling this off, I have tried several times over the past year to fully explain what Trump and company were attempting to do here. The chances of their success looked impossible at the time. In contrast to my trying to explain the sheer difficulty of attempting to spot, root out, replace, investigate, collect the evidence, build the cases, and then prosecute some of the most powerful and influential people in the world since 2017, There's been a gaggle of pundits who, since June of 2017, have engaged in an endless Cassandra chorus of standing at my elbow and loudly saying over and over again, just arrest them. What are you waiting for? Arrest them. Arrest them already. Why haven't you arrested them yet? Hello? Arrest them. Yes, to hear some pundits tell it, absolutely nothing was stopping these Spygate plotters from all being arrested back in mid 2017. Certainly by mid 2018, there was no reason the hammer shouldn't instantly be dropped on these bad cops. That's a false narrative. Always has been. Trump and company were trying to pull off one of the most complex counterintelligence stings on an entrenched criminal cabal inside the federal government to bring them to justice without collapsing Trump's ability to govern. Stop for a minute and read the previous sentence. A failure of much punditry over the past 3 years on the conservative side has been loudly complaining about Trump and his hand-picked team not doing this right. To hear people who make their living giving their opinion tell it, the right way to go about this was for Trump and his team to immediately arrest all these plotters and then start building the cases against them and make the case for arresting them and expose them afterwards. Because they know the right way Trump should have gone about rooting out this criminal cabal, much of the conservative pundit class has been mystified for the past 3 years as to why Trump never seems to take their advice on just about anything. Smart people game planned this out. They foresaw what would happen, what the consequences would be if Trump and his team unleashed hell on the Spygate plotters back in 2017, 2018, 2019, before the time was right. If you start with the arrests back in late 2017, and then try to expose them after you've arrested them, try to explain what they did while they're sitting in a prison cell, that would not have worked. If you think it would have, you haven't thought about it. A far better strategy would be to fully expose them first. Take your time, rooting them all out, collecting the evidence, carefully building cases for prosecution, so by the time you're ready to indict, over 2/3 of the country is saying, hey, why aren't they in jail yet? That is where we are now at. The difference between arresting a James Comey or an Andrew McCabe back in 2017 and arresting them in summer of 2020 is the ground has been fully prepared. The battlefield is ready. Thank God none of the pundits who think they are smarter than this president, that they are better informed than he is, and who deep in their hearts believe they'd have done a better job than him handling this. I thank God every morning he doesn't listen to these people. Because the correct strategy was pursued by Trump and his team, we are now at the point the DOJ itself is ready to go public with some of the evidence against the Spygate cabal as it relates to the Flynn case. The DOJ sent Jeffrey Jensen into that D.C. U.S. Attorney's office. Barr personally appointed U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Missouri, Jeffrey Jensen, to go into the D.C. United States Attorney's Office, recently vacated by Jesse K. Lew, and dig into that utter fiasco of a case against General Flynn. That's what we call a special prosecutor. It was revealed that special prosecutor was inside the D.C. United States Attorney's Office back in mid-February. I wrote about it at the time. I even made a humorous meme to kind of point to what had just happened. Lew, Jesse K. Lew, was tricked into giving up the D.C. U.S. Attorney's job with an offer of a better job at the Treasury Department, a job that suddenly went poof and disappeared, while top bar Lieutenant Timothy Shea replaced her. You're watching the Endgame of a military-style counterintelligence sting against a deeply entrenched criminal cabal where two-thirds of its members held key government positions until very recently. Understand what a key component of the sting is. You leave some of these people in place for a time while you gather your evidence against them. You follow them around. You intercept their communications. You tap their phones. You read their emails. You do unto others what they've done unto you. You send them people who convince them they are on their side, ready to help them take a president down. And the entire time, Trump's spies are informing on you. Use of your own spies to counter the enemy's spies is a key component of this kind of warfare. Even at this stage, most conservative pundits haven't figured out who Trump's main spy was in this counterintelligence sting on the Spygate cabal, even though it's no longer a secret. Only your own biases keep you from seeing it. Biases based on what pundits babbled to you. Rod Rosenstein. As the indictments are unsealed and the trial maneuvers begin, as cases against Flynn, Stone, Manafort, and others are tossed, as the lawsuits start flying, the role of Trump's own counterspies will become evident. Some people are in for an awful shock. Of course, after Rosenstein testifies at the trials as a witness for the prosecutors, everybody is going to go, well, duh, it was obvious. That's okay. People remember who told you this first. Not even the hero's send-off he got in the main hall at the DOJ made a dent in the narratives pundits have babbled about Rosenstein for 3.5 years. Not even Barr asking Rosenstein to stay on longer for another 3 months. Nothing is allowed to dent that narrative. Understand, once Barr was securely in place and Rosenstein had finished his mission, they dropped the mask. And they literally rubbed it in the Spygate cabal's face. You suckers. You utter suckers. You have no idea how screwed you are. But you'll find out.